So I got asked a great question. How does the healthy treats work, Heather? I am really trying to figure out a balance between snacks and treats. And I've been making all these homemade healthy treats. And I'm wondering if those could also be snacks. So the funny conundrum is when we think about snacks and treats, and if you need more clarification on snacks and treats, I do have videos on what's the difference between a snack or a treat. And I think I should clarify that really quick before we move forward. Snacks are foods that have nutritional value that typically don't promote cravings. You don't want them, like if I said Greek yogurt and blueberries, you're like, I'll eat it if I'm hungry, but it's nothing I'm like, ooh, gotta have it. If I were to say something like Kind bars, Built bars, or if I were to say something like, I'm trying to think of a good example here, popcorn, pretzels, anything that you might struggle with just having a singular serving and that you're typically craving, especially when you're stressed or feeling worn out, or you're like kind of perusing the pantry to get, those are going to be more treats, even though historically you might have seen those as being snacks. Okay. So snacks are foods that you could leave or take. It's really based on hunger. They have nutritional value. You're not going to be sitting there craving a cup of Greek yogurt and blueberries, but you might be in the back of your mind thinking, ooh, I really want a Kind bar right now. And that's a snack, isn't it? So once we have that clarification, then the question becomes, what do we do with all these healthy treat concoctions, right? Black bean brownies, chickpea blondies, Greek yogurt cheesecakes, pumpkin custards. Like, where does all that fit in, Heather? How does that work? So I'm going to share with you my way of thinking of it. You can take it or leave it. But what I think of when I think of treats is typically they are what we call calorically dense. What that means is they're foods that take up little room. They're not, they're not large servings. They're very small servings, but they're packing a pretty high calorie punch. Even if they're made with dates and black beans and all kinds of good, oats and all this other stuff, it doesn't really matter the ingredients. It comes down to caloric, the calorie value. So if this is a 500 calorie black bean brownie because I put, raw this and coconut that and whatever, it's still 500 calorie brownie. Whether it's coming from Pillsbury or it's coming from your blender, it doesn't matter. And the reason this is important is because if it's a calorically dense food and you're treating it like a snack, it might be getting abused just like the Kind bars, okay? So my general approach to this is the following. If it's a legit treat, a black bean brownie that's 500 calories, a Blondie that's 300. I typically save that for post dinner. I treat it like a treat, even if I'm making it from scratch and it's better quality for my family and for me. And the reason that a lot of people choose this way of doing things is because maybe they have something they've had to eliminate from their diet. Maybe they just want to eat more whole foods. Maybe they're trying to raise their kids to eat better than they did. There's all these different reasons why somebody would choose to make a brownie out of black beans or something like that versus buying the boxed stored type, right? Or even making it with just regular ingredients from scratch. So there's no bad or good here. I'm just trying to paint a picture for you. So if it's a highly calorically dense food, then I treat it to be a treat and I put it post dinner. If it's something that has nutritional value, like I make these Greek yogurt cheesecakes, which if you have not checked her out yet, I think it's the Pound Dropper. Her website's great. She's got all these cheesecake variations all made with Greek yogurt, which I eat Greek yogurt with some of my meals. Like that's not something that's outside the realm of what I would normally do. And it's not super calorically dense. Like I get a cheesecake, it's usually I think 160 calories. It's really reasonable. But again, it's made with cheesecake, sugar-free pudding, and eggs. Like that's pretty much the extent of it. What I will do is I will incorporate that with my lunch. I don't really eat those as snacks per se. I usually incorporate them with my meals. So then what I do is I might offset the amount of chicken or oil or whatever I'm putting in my salad. So that way I'm hitting all my protein requirements, I'm hitting all my nutritional requirements, but I'm just splitting my meal up between something that maybe I made in my kitchen that could be a more treaty food, but calorically it's not super dense. And calorically dense is gonna depend on your calorie target. If you're somebody who is having to focus on weight loss from say a 12 or 1300 calorie diet, which older women, smaller people, that might very well be true, calorically dense for you might be 200-300 calories. Calorically dense for somebody who can get away with eating 1800 calories might be pushing 400-500 calories. You've got to kind of make that decision for you. So I just want to encourage you, don't put any of this as black or white, good or bad. Oh, I made this from scratch, Whole Foods, desserty thing, and now I can have it all the time. If it's calorically dense, it's calorically dense. If it's a lighter option, like these cheesecakes, or I make a pumpkin custard, super low in calories, I will also include that with my lunch, but I will offset what I'm eating for my lunch to make that work. I try with my snacks to keep them snacks. So a cup of Greek yogurt with some blueberries, a cup of cottage cheese with some fresh pineapple, or hard-boiled eggs. I try to keep those things non-processed, whether it's processed in my kitchen or whether it's processed in a factory. I try to keep those things that way, so that way I don't blur the lines, for me personally, between treats and snacks, okay? So I hope this helps. I got this great question from my client last night, and I just wanted to address it here. I think when we're kind of trying to define treats versus snacks, it really comes down to caloric density of the food, what's the portion versus the calories, right? And then ultimately thinking about how we want to parse that out through the day to support our goals, and to realize that no matter how you're making these treats, if they're a small quantity for a high calorie price tag, we've got to be very intentional with where we put those. So I love treats. You guys know I share this all the time. I put all my treat stuff usually in the evening after dinner. If I'm making one of these, cheesecake things or one of these pumpkin custard things, which are not as calorically dense, I will put it in with my lunch, but I will offset my lunch calories to make room for it. So I hope that all makes sense. And I just want to encourage you, as you are getting into baking this stuff, please hear me. I did a video on this where I talked about individual portions, even black bean brownies, even things you're making with dates and oats and all this other stuff. If you struggle with these kinds of foods, you can overconsume those too. So one of the things I've learned, I do make black bean brownies for my family, is that I have separate ramekins and I bake them individually. And I only make enough for us to each have one, because I have gotten burned by making trays of brownies, making trays of treats. I have learned I have a hard time with that. So what have I done? I've only ever made enough. After I got burned 3 times, I only make enough for everybody to have one, and they're individually baked. This takes the whole pressure of me overeating off the table. So I hope that helps. I hope all of this makes sense. Define treats versus snacks, number 1. Number 2, really figure out what is a calorically dense option for you. If you're eating less calories, probably more like 200-300. If you're on the higher end, 400-500 for something that's a small quantity, like a little brownie or a little bar. And really think to yourself, where do treats work in my day? And how can I respect the idea of eating snacks as snacks and treats as treats, regardless of their place of origin? Regardless of if it's a Pillsbury brownie or a homemade black bean brownie, right? It does not matter. They all are bringing calories into your thing. And you all know, because we've talked about it so many times, that if your goal is weight loss, you must be in a caloric deficit, regardless of what the food is comprised of. So anyway, I hope this helps. Please like and subscribe to my YouTube channel. Please feel free to share these videos. And if you have any questions, please leave them in the comments below. And that way I can create videos to better help you. All right, guys, take care, and I'll talk to you soon.